Welcome, fellow explorers. My name is Christian Alexanderson, and this is Hemlocks to Hellbenders, a podcast highlighting Pennsylvania's parks, forests, and great outdoors. In the 1930s, a beautiful forest in northeast Pennsylvania was set to become a national park, which made sense. The area was special, even to those that purchased the land to timber it. In a time when forests across the Commonwealth were being clear-cut to feed the growing nation of raw materials, this forest received some reprieve. As a result, 300-year-old trees were allowed to continue to grow, providing the forest with mature trees and the viewing public with examples of ancient forests. These magnificent trees stood 100 feet tall with diameters of almost 4 feet. But between these arboreal giants hid a collection of natural wonders found nowhere else in Pennsylvania. 2 creek branches cut through deep gorges, creating a series of unbelievable waterfalls. These waterfalls united and flowed through a glen among massive pines, hemlocks, and oaks. The owner of the land built a trail to the area of the waterfalls. Many of the waterfalls were named after indigenous tribes, as well as the property owner's family and friends. These names remain today. Unfortunately, World War II brought an end to the plan to make it a national park. However, thousands of acres were purchased in the 1940s to preserve this incredible landscape and its otherworldly glens. In 1969, the glens became a registered national and natural landmark and was made a state park natural area in 1993. We now know this property as Ricketts Glen State Park. There is no state park in Pennsylvania that I get more questions and comments about than Ricketts Glen. It seems to be the only park that everyone has visited, even if they don't spend much time in nature. And I get it. Ricketts Glen is a place where your soul feels unencumbered. Golden sunlight filters through the canopy of towering hemlocks. The moss and ferns on the forest floor glisten in the warm rays. Your ears are filled with the sound of cascading waterfalls and the trickles of moving water. Each step in this ancient forest feels like walking on the edge of a dream. There's a weightlessness there, as if the burdens of life are surrendered to the sights, sounds, and smells of nature. Ricketts Glen reminds me of a quote I once heard. And into the forest I go, to lose my mind and find my soul. That's how many feel when they visit this special place. That is, if the park isn't filled with other people trying to do the same thing. But before we learn more about the park, here's the stats. Ricketts Glen State Park is a 13,193-acre park located in Luzerne, Sullivan, and Columbia counties. Available activities include hiking, picnicking, overnight accommodations, swimming, wildlife watching, boating, fishing, hunting, horse riding, cross-country skiing, and snowmobiling. A notable feature of the park is its 22 named waterfalls. The park is named for Civil War Colonel Robert Bruce Ricketts. At one time, he owned or controlled more than 80,000 acres in the area. Nearby towns include Ricketts and Red Rock. State lands that are close by include State Game Lands 13 and 206, World's End, Francis Slocum and Valsburg Neck State Parks, and Weiser, Pinchot, and Loyalsock State Forests. You may enjoy the park if you enjoy stunning waterfalls. I'm excited to welcome Scott Wilson to the podcast. Scott is the manager of Ricketts Glen State Park. Scott, thanks so much for joining the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
How would you describe the park to someone who's never been there before?
I describe it as it's a large park. We have a lot of different features and attractions here. It totals just over about 13,000 acres, so it is one of the larger state parks in the state by acreage, at least. We have everything from a whole bunch of hiking opportunities. We have almost 30 miles of hiking trails. We also have a good bit of variety in our camping opportunities here. A lot of boating, swimming, fishing, a number of other activities. So there's certainly something for everyone here to be done year round.
What do you love most about the park?
I would have to say that the variety of opportunities that the park provides. There really is something for everybody. If you're looking to get outdoors and enjoy nature, you can find something for you here. Even on the busiest days of the summer, with the size of the park, you can always find something to do somewhere that'll get you out, into the peace and quiet. Personally, myself, I'm a winter season kind of guy, so I love being able to get out and hike a trail in the snow, and everything is completely silent other than your boots crunching down the trail. So that's what I love most about it.
I always kind of hope more people become like winter park visitors, because each park kind of takes on a whole new character when the winter comes, and there's so many great activities that are available.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
The feature that brings so many visitors to Ricketts Glen is the park's waterfalls. Can you tell us about the Glen's natural area, the waterfalls, and how people can see them?
Sure. The Glen's natural area, it's been a recognized national natural landmark for about 55 years now. In the landmark, there are 21 named waterfalls, and there's actually one just outside of it, so it's 22 really total you can see there. Starting back early in the 1900s, they started improving the pathways up into the area when the Ricketts family still owned pretty much all of the land here that's now the park. They worked on giving people better access to the area, and once the park actually became a state park, it saw a lot more improvements. Bridges being improved and going in, treadways being improved, and that's culminated in our current 7.2 mile full Falls Trail loop. There's a number of different trailhead locations you can use to get into the area, but there's three main ones. They each offer a different amount of total mileage that a hiker can go for. You can see 18 waterfalls if you do like a 3.5 mile loop or a 3.2 mile loop. So that's one that's very popular with people that don't have a ton of time. But yeah, there's something mileage wise for a lot of different ability levels.
What are some tips you have for those interested in taking the Falls Trail? What should they be prepared for?
Well, the trail covers about 1,000 feet of elevation change from top to bottom. Obviously it takes elevation change to make waterfalls. So you got to be physically prepared to take on that kind of elevation change and the challenge that comes with it. What goes down must come back up if you're looking to get back to your car. So on the trail itself, there are a ton of hand-built stone staircases. So those all have, kind of irregular heights to them. There's no handrails of any kind. And pretty much the rest of the trail is a lot of uneven terrain, rocks, roots, wet ground, being next to a creek the whole way. So I would say it's not necessarily for anyone who isn't ready for that type of hike or someone who's unsure of their footing.
Mm-hmm.
So, the tips I would give to people who are ready for that kind of challenge, plan your route out ahead of time so you end where you started and you're not trying to figure out where your car is. You want to make sure you bring plenty of water, and the most important thing is wear proper footwear. Hiking boots, they're strongly recommended, so not sneakers, sandals, flip-flops, Crocs, that kind of thing. There is there's a lack of cell phone service for the vast majority of the hike. Being down in the Glens area, there's big stone walls that go up and out, so it blocks pretty much all the service in there. And just making sure you're ready for that kind of hike. We do unfortunately see a number of injuries each year on the Falls Trail. A lot of times it's just typically due to people not having proper footwear or physically being unprepared for the challenges of the hike, not knowing what they're getting into. But, if you make sure you're ready for it and you're prepared for that challenge, then go for it.
What are some of the standout waterfalls that visitors really seem to enjoy?
A lot of people like the biggest one, which is Canoga Falls. It's 94 feet tall. It's understandable. It's really a sight to see if you've never been there. It has a big, wide open area at the bottom of it where a lot of people stop and have lunch or take pictures, that kind of thing. So that's a favorite of a lot of people that come out here. My personal favorite is Ozone Falls, which is a 60-footer. It kind of has multiple tiers to it. It's on the Glen Lee side. If you stand at the right spot, you can see one of our big wooden bridges at the very top of it. So it's kind of picturesque. I'm a personal fan of that one.
For those visitors that have limited mobility or might not be able to complete the entire Falls Trail, which waterfalls would you recommend people travel to?
Well, so none of our falls are particularly accessible, by way of wheelchair. But there is one that is only a short distance from a parking area. It's down a few flights of stairs, and that one's called Adams Falls. That's at the southern end of the park. It's right off of the Evergreen parking lot, which is right next to Route 118. It's the trailhead you would actually park at if you wanted to go and do the full 7-mile loop. That one is, it's pretty close to the parking area there. So if long as folks can negotiate some steps for a little bit, then that's the one we recommend.
Yeah, and it's one of those, if you're driving through the area, you don't have time to do the whole thing. I remember it being extremely easy to get to. Like you said, a few sets of stairs and you're down to the bottom. And it is a really wonderful waterfall to see.
Yeah, it's actually I think it's one of the prettiest ones in the park.
Is there a best time of year to see waterfalls, or any recommendations you have for visitors traveling to see Ricketts Glen's waterfalls in particular?
I would typically recommend that people try to come out either in the springtime or in the fall.
Hmm.
Couple reasons. The water levels are usually more consistent at that time of year. A lot of people, they don't want to see, just a little tiny bit of water going over the rocks. You want to see water pounding down. So springtime and fall, we tend to get more rain. Summer, things can get pretty dry, even though if the weather is a little bit more consistent. If you're ready to be out there in the elements, it might be a little chillier in the spring or the fall, but the water is usually better. The other thing, spring and fall are significantly less busy. Summertime, like most parks, Memorial Day to Labor Day is our peak season. The weekends particularly see tons of visitation. So if you want to get out there and, avoid waiting for folks to go up and down stairwells and that kind of thing, spring and fall, you have a lot better chance of doing that.
As you kind of noted in the beginning, the park is much more than just the waterfalls. You have a lot of really great recreation opportunities, one of them being the 245-acre Lake Jean. What sort of activities are popular on the lake?
Yeah, we have a pretty large swimming area, a nice sandy beach in our day use area, surrounded by the picnic area there. So a lot of people like to come out and, have a family picnic and get out on the sand and go swimming in the lake. Boating is very popular all through the warmer parts of the year here. We have a lot of people who come out and bring their own boats and kayak, and it's a non-powered lake, so it's electric trolling motors only for fishing boats, that kind of thing. And we also have a boat rental concession that operates in the summertime for anyone who would come out with, if you don't have your own boat, you come out in the summer, you want to rent a canoe for a couple hours, you can do that. And of course, fishing is popular here. We're not stocked with trout here in this lake because of the temperatures. They get a little bit higher than what's good for them. But we have a very good bass fishery and panfish population.
And now, let's hear from our sponsors. Keystone Trails Association is headed to Lake Raystown. Join KTA April 25th to 27th for Spring Hiking Weekend 2025 at Lake Raystown, presented by the Huntington County Visitors Bureau. 3 days of hikes, outdoor activities, and programming awaits. Visit kta-hike.org to register and for more information. Are you looking for your next adventure? Unlock some of the best landscapes in Pennsylvania with an incredibly detailed, highly curated waterproof trail maps from the folks at Purple Lizard. They create extraordinary maps of Pennsylvania state forests for people who love to explore the outdoors. Find them at your local outfitters, bike shops, and bookstores, or visit purplelizard.com, where your next adventure begins. Walk, run, or roll to save the trees. Join the Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation for the Bob Ross Run for the Trees Happy Little 5K. Proceeds from registration go towards planting trees in Pennsylvania state parks and forests. This virtual 5K can be done anywhere, anytime, April 19th to the 27th, 2025. And participants get cool swag. Learn more or sign up at ppff.events/runforthetrees. Looking for a way to add some local Pennsylvania flair to your space? Check out Sister Sunflowers. They create unique stickers inspired by small local spaces, from quirky caves to hidden local gems. They bring your favorite places to life. For both locals and visitors, there's stickers, magnets, prints, and more celebrating Pennsylvania's most iconic parks and forests. And for more avid explorers, there's even a hand-drawn poster to keep track of the Pennsylvania state parks and forests that you've been to. Use the code HELLBENDER15 at checkout to get 15% off your first order. Support local, inspire adventure, and decorate with meaning, only at Sister Sunflowers. Shop now at sistersunflowers.com. All right, back to the show. Ricketts Glen State Park has more than 28 miles of trails. They give visitors a snapshot of beautiful forests, natural features, and the area's history. Do you have any trail recommendations for them?
Well, I mean, the vast majority, like we've talked about, they come to do the Falls Trail. So that's already a pretty well-known route. I typically recommend something a little bit less traveled if someone is looking for something other than that.
Absolutely.
There's a really nice loop that's about 5 miles or so that we call the Little Cherry Run Loop. The Little Cherry Run Trail connects between Mountain Springs Trail and Cherry Run Trail. It starts at our beach lot number 2 trailhead. And if you go out, you can do Mountain Springs to Little Cherry Run and go up a nice right next to a nice creek that has some small rolling cascades on it. It doesn't have big waterfalls, but it's still very beautiful. The rest of the hike is nice, wide rolling trails through, pretty heavily wooded areas. So it's very pretty.
What are people's reactions that you see when they come visit the park? What are the things that they're usually coming back with and talking about?
A lot of people they're just astonished with the amount of waterfalls in a small area that we have here. It's something that you really don't see many other places, in Pennsylvania or even, anywhere on the East Coast, really. So that's usually the big takeaway.
Is there something everyone should experience when they visit?
Well, it's, pretty much the topic of what we've talked about so far, but I would say it's see a waterfall. It's kind of our calling card and what we're most known for here. So even if it's just that, quick little walk down to Adams Falls, like you were talking about, check it out before you leave the area.
Let's say a visitor has like a full weekend to explore the park. What do you recommend they do? They go on the Falls Trail. What else should they check out?
Yeah, I would say, one of your days, definitely go on the Falls Trail, take your time, do the whole full loop, bring lunch with you, stop somewhere, rest and enjoy, being in nature. Don't try to rush through it. A lot of people really like to blast through a hike, but, it's nice to take your time every once in a while and sit and relax. Another good day in my mind, you probably could fill it with, relaxing, having a nice picnic, swimming in the lake. If you want to pair that with one of our other, less demanding hikes than the Falls Trail, if you already did that one and your legs are a little sore, you can do one of the other hikes in the park. We have a lot of good ones. If you're here in the summertime or, close to the summertime, we have quite a few programs that are put on by our environmental educator here. So if you want to try to catch one of those, that's always, enjoyable. You really can fill in another day doing quite a bit of things here.
In your opinion, when is the best season to visit the park?
Like I was saying earlier, the spring and the fall are the best bets to try to come and, enjoy the place and enjoy it without as much company as you can. But, everybody likes coming out when the weather is nice and, the kids are off of school and all that kind of thing. But, to get more specific, if you have to come in the summertime and that's when, everybody's available, try to come out during the week. During the week, our visitation is a lot lower than on the weekends. Or if you have to come on a summer weekend, come here as early as you can. If you get here shortly after sunrise, the first few hours of the day, you'll have a lot of things all to yourself. So midweek or early or spring or the fall, those are the times.
I find that weekday hikes are underrated. Just being able to like take a day off on like a Tuesday and go for a hike and spend your time, you're virtually never going to find somebody on a trail, especially even during high season. You kind of have it to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly is the way to go in my mind.
Yeah, and there's nothing like spending time with a lot of people to make you realize how much you don't want to spend a lot of time with people in the outdoors. A little bit of separation.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
What kind of camping, cabin, and cottage options are available for visitors?
So we have a whole bunch of different stuff here. We have all sorts of different campsites, anything from, your basic tent site that has no water or electric, but has a shower house you can go to with hot showers, all the way up to, we have a number of large full service sites for, the bigger RVs and stuff that have electric, water, sewer. We have some organized group tenting sites. So we have 6 of those. They can handle up to 40 people on each site. We get a lot of scouting groups that come in and, church groups, things like that enjoy those quite a bit. We have, roofed overnight, we have cabins and cottages. We have 5 deluxe cottages that have electric in them. They have heat and a small waterless kitchen. So, it has like a fridge and a microwave and things like that, but you're still going over to the shower house to use the bathroom. And then we have 10 modern cabins that are open year round. They sleep 6 or 8 people. They have, full kitchen, running water, all the modern amenities. Those are incredibly popular.
It's been my experience with camping, cottages, and cabins that they're booked pretty well in advance. Would you recommend that people, if they have if it's the winter, they should be thinking about the next couple seasons ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. For the cabins and cottages, particularly, as soon as the booking windows open, you can book up to 11 months in advance for any of our overnight facilities here, as with all state parks, or all Pennsylvania state parks at least. For those roofed overnight ones, you'd want to be looking that far out because they're that popular, especially if you're looking for peak season. That's when you need to be looking. The tent sites and things like that are a little bit more forgiving, but you certainly want to plan ahead.
Yeah. Ricketts Glen has an exceptional diversity of bird life. What can visitors see if they take a trip there?
Well, I'm admittedly not a huge birding guy, but I certainly am aware that we have some great birding opportunities here, particularly in our the hay fields, which is a portion of the park north of Lake Jean. It's kind of a early meadow habitat sort of thing. A lot of blueberries. It's a great place to go and see a ton of different types of birds. The park itself is designated as an important bird area by the Audubon Society, and we do have in the season when our education staff is here, we have an educator as well as volunteers that put on great bird watching programs for folks who are very into it or people who are just trying to get into birding and trying to learn some things. So it's a great place for bird watching.
What sort of programs do your educators put on?
Well, they put on a huge variety of stuff. The education staff is here from usually middle of March to like the middle of November, and they do all kinds of active activities like kayaking, archery classes. They bring in folks who teach yoga, orienteering, hiking, that all sorts of active stuff like that, paired with more passive stuff like historical programs, presentations on animal tracks and furs and identification sort of things, and pretty much everything in between. You name it, they do varieties of programs about it. We also have a couple bigger annual events we put on here. We have a larger scale educational event for Earth Day, which we actually don't do on Earth Day because it's so early in the year. We do it a little bit later when some more folks are around, but a lot of local organizations come in and help out with that. And we also do another weekend hosted in the summer every year. We welcome veterans and their families in, give them some programming and entertainment and relaxation and camping and that kind of thing. So that's always nice to see the families come out and enjoy that.
What can visitors learn when they attend the park's visitor center?
Well, we have, first of all, they could talk to our outstanding staff here and learn whatever they would want about the park and their hike they're looking to undertake. We also have in the visitor center section itself of the office here, we have a wide variety of taxidermy animals on display that they're all different animals that can be found here in the park. Many of them, unfortunately, met their demise along the roadways in the park. We have a pretty major thoroughfare with PA Route 487 that goes through here. So, unfortunately, sometimes you find an animal, but it's good if you can then turn that into something that people can learn from. Can be neat for people to see certain kinds of animals up close. We also have a variety of different items displaying the history of the park itself and the surrounding area. A lot of the items we have on display have to do with the former ice and logging industries. They were very prevalent in this area. So there's things you can read about that as well as physical historical artifacts from that era.
I always recommend too, when people go to a park, the first thing they should do is stop at a visitor center if it's available. Just ask any questions. If somebody's going to do the Falls Trail, something could have happened where it's actually closed today, or the conditions might be really bad. Like, always go to the visitor center just to learn about current conditions, because you guys are the boots on the ground. You kind of know the best.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's something going on, we'll be able to fill them in about whatever that is, and if whatever they're coming to do isn't available, we usually have a good recommendation of something else for them.
Do you have any tips for people who plan on visiting the park, or any suggestions to make their visit as enjoyable as possible?
Well, I mean, aside from the things I mentioned earlier about how to, prepare for your hike and the times of year you're coming, that kind of thing, I would say just, plan on being flexible with your trip. A lot of people come here to see our waterfalls, and a lot of people come here to see them when a lot of other people are coming here to see them.
Yeah.
So, be prepared to make changes to your plan. If the parking area you planned on parking in is full, be flexible with that, and be flexible and patient with other people while you're here. I mean, everybody's here to enjoy the outdoors. You're not here to get frustrated that there's other people doing the same thing you're doing. And be ready to be adaptable if the weather changes your plans. You could be coming from an area where the weather is completely different than what it is here. We have a lot of visitors from warmer climates than what we see here. So a lot of times they'll show up and it'll be 38 degrees here when it was 50 something at home for them. So you just got to kind of plan ahead and be flexible, be ready for differences in the plan.
Ricketts Glen is one of those parks that seems to get a lot of travelers, not just from Pennsylvania, unlike something that you might find in central Pennsylvania. Do you have a lot of out-of-state and international visitors that come by?
Yeah, we certainly do. It's on a lot of people's bucket lists to go see this here, and I don't blame them. It's a beautiful area, and the Falls Trail is beautiful for people to hike on. So we, like you said, we see people from not only from out of state but out of country that come and try to check the area out.
Yeah, it's on a lot of people's. I mean, I've met so many people that say it's their favorite state park in Pennsylvania, and they say it's not even close.
Well, we're always happy to hear that. It means at least we're keeping it nice for folks to come check out, and hopefully we can keep it that way.
Yeah. Scott, thanks so much for talking to us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I want to thank my guest, Scott Wilson, for joining the podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Meta for more information about upcoming episodes. You can support the podcast by buying merch at hemlockstohellbenders.com, or you can click support this show in the podcast description to provide a monthly donation. This has been Hemlocks to Hellbenders. I'll see you out there. Hosting, production, and editing by Christian Alexanderson. Music by John Sauer. Graphics by Matt Davis.